Ladies and gentlemen, hello and welcome to This Week in Videogames, the show that's perfectly explained by the title. I'm your host, Shill Up. Let's talk about some gaming news. For the last few weeks, we've been tracking the story of Sony's sudden decommissioning of the PS3, PSP, and Vita storefronts, surprising both consumers and developers and making nearly 2,000 games permanently unavailable. Sony remained silent as backlash to the decision grew, but today they performed the mother of all backflips, announcing that the storefronts will remain open. PlayStation CEO Jim Ryan announced the move on the PlayStation blog, saying, quote, "Upon further reflection, however, it's clear we've made the wrong decision here. So today I'm happy to say that we are keeping the PlayStation Store operational for PS3 and PS Vita devices. PSP commerce functionality will retire on July 2nd, 2021 as planned." He'd go on to say that Sony now realizes that many people are passionate about being able to purchase classic games, which is quite a character arc for Jim given his earlier comments about classics where he expressed that he just couldn't understand why someone would want to play an old game. Either way, this is great news and it's the kind of backflip you love to see. One backflip we probably won't see from Sony is in relation to Days Gone. We're still not getting a sequel, and the game's creative director is maybe blaming the fans for that one. Okay, so here's the deal. Days Gone's creator and director John Garvin appeared on David Jaffe's podcast where they were talking about all sorts of stuff going on in the world of Sony, and in particular, what's going on with Days Gone, its development history, its reception, and the talk of a sequel. At one point in the interview, Garvin says this:
"If you love a game, buy it at fucking full price."
This caused a pretty massive social media blowback, with people rightly asking, how the hell am I supposed to know I love a game before I've played it? And rightly pointing out the fact that Days Gone had no demo prior to release, and rightly pointing out the fact that it released in a really buggy state that, was just really bad, and I know this for a fact because I reviewed it and it was in terrible shape. I agree the way this guy framed this was kind of dickish, but I also sort of understand where he might be coming from, because Days Gone only really found its audience long after all the bugs were fixed and after people pushed through a harsh critical reception to try it for themselves and found a game that wasn't as bad as critics made out. Directing his anger towards consumers who don't fork out on day one, though, that isn't the right target. There's a reason that people don't pay for games at launch these days. I mean, just look at Outriders, or Avengers, or Cyberpunk, or dozens of others. The way publishers choose to release games is far more to blame here than is the decision of consumers to not purchase them. Anyway, while we're on the topic of Sony, did you know that the PS5 is the fastest selling console in history, despite the fact that no one can actually buy it? According to the NPD group, PlayStation 5 is the fastest selling console in US history in both unit and dollar sales. Lifetime sales with 5 months on the market. How is this possible? Is this just scalpers hoovering all these up? Is Jeff Bezos building a new mansion made out of PS5s? Is Elon Musk buying them and shipping them to Mars for his colony? How could it be that a system that no one can buy is selling this well? I don't understand this. It's weird. Final piece of Sony news. Aloy has arrived in everyone's favorite game, Fortnite. I know we should all be making fun of this, but just to be real, it looks kind of cool, and I like what they've done with the cosmetics. This is, of course, exclusive to PS4 and PS5, and yeah, Fortnite. You guys love that. You might be aware that Amazon are working on a big budget Lord of the Rings TV series at the moment, and Amazon Game Studios were making a Lord of the Rings MMO RPG to go along with it. Bit of a weird choice to make an MMO given the fact the genre really isn't popping off at the moment, and besides, there's already a Lord of the Rings MMO out. It's still alive, it just doesn't really get any updates or much happening with it at this point. Anyway, turns out the studio that was going to make the game got bought by Tencent, and then Amazon and Tencent couldn't come to terms on how to progress the project, so boom, it's been shit-canned. This now puts Amazon in the enviable position of having cancelled more games than they've actually released. Jeff Bezos' billions can buy his PlayStation 5 mansion, but they can't buy a good video game. Path of Exile got a big update this week, and it didn't go so well. Not so well at all, in fact. Servers essentially collapsed with the launch of their new season, offering players queues up to 4 billion people long. Don't worry though, you could skip the queue if you were a big-time streamer. Grinding Gear Games set up a system that allowed certain streamers to jump the queue, a move that absolutely enraged the community. The developers would later go on to apologize for both the server delays and the streamer queue jumping program, explaining that it was part of their marketing spend since they paid influencers to play the new season to promote the game. This might be an unpopular opinion, but I don't think this was the hanging offense that many made it out to be. Grinding Gears Games are an indie studio and they have to spend money to promote their game. Part of that spend is streamers. That's just how you market games in 2021. I think this probably would have been a non-issue had the servers not collapsed, but it all became a sort of perfect storm at some point. Anyway, go and check out the new update if you're keen. Personally, I'm looking forward to Path of Exile 2, since that feels like it'll be the right entry point into what feels like a pretty intimidating franchise. While we're on the topic of disappointing launches, CD Projekt Red have reiterated that there are no plans to shelve Cyberpunk 2077. CD Projekt Red's CEO Adam Kaczynski told Reuters, quote, "I don't see an option to shelve Cyberpunk 2077. We are convinced that we can bring the game to such a state that we can be proud of it and therefore successfully sell it for years to come." That's a bit of a tall order given that the game's recent patch didn't offer much in the way of improvements, and the game is still not purchasable on the PSN owing to its technical issues. Surely the executives at CD Projekt Red had big dreams for Cyberpunk with sequels and movies and TV shows and spin-off games and all sorts of stuff. Abandoning those dreams isn't an option, so CD Projekt Red are plowing forward. It's a little hard to be enthusiastic about all this after the way CD Projekt Red treated so many of its loyal fans. This week, you might have heard that Square Enix was for sale. The rumor got traction after Bloomberg published it, but it sounded kind of fishy to me since Square are doing really well at the moment, except for the Avengers, and they aren't particularly dead heavy. Sure enough, Square Enix issued an official statement that basically said, "Lol, no one is buying us, everyone calm down." So that's that. You lose this round, Phil Spencer. Phil Spencer's like, "I'll get you one day, Square, just you wait and see." Good luck to you, Phil. How about some Nintendo news? For years and years, Nintendo fans have been begging and pleading for a return of the F-Zero franchise. Well, Nintendo have heard you, and they don't care. This week, Takaya Imamura, a former Nintendo artist and designer who helped create Majora's Mask and Captain Falcon, Fox McCloud, said that while F-Zero isn't dead, it's hard to bring back without a grand idea. I mean, that hasn't stopped all those Pokemon games from getting made, and they haven't had any new ideas in years. Come on now, Wipeout's dead, the latest F-Zero game was like 18 years ago. Just make an F-Zero game and we'll all buy it, I promise. If you want proof, Nintendo, how about the fact that Mario Kart 8 is now the best-selling racing game in US history? The NPD Group reported this week that Mario Kart 8 has sold more than 40 million copies across both the Wii U and the Nintendo Switch. If 40 million people are willing to buy Mario Kart, there's a market out there for a new F-Zero as well. Speaking of gangbuster sales, this week Respawn announced that Apex Legends has hit over 100 million players. It's a fantastic milestone for what has been a terrific game, which only continues to pick up momentum over time. Season 9 will be starting soon, which promises to bring some very Titanfall-esque stuff to the table. Not sure what that is yet. Respawn also announced that Apex Legends is coming to mobile, a version that is largely the same as on other platforms, but with redesigned UI and touch controls. That's being beta tested in India and the Philippines first, with other regions coming later. Mobile Battle Royale games are a pretty big deal at this point, so this isn't surprising, and it's just great to see this franchise going from strength to strength. A smidgen of news relating to Bungie's next game. We know it's called Project Matter at the moment, it's a working title, and we know they're working towards a release date of well into the future, like 23, 24, 25. But a recent job posting sheds a little more light. Reported by DestinyNews.com, a job posting says Bungie are looking for people highly experienced in competitive gaming and the world of esports. This is telling and indicates that Bungie's next game isn't the PvE-focused experience that some people were hoping it would be, and in fact hints that it might skew far more to the PvP side of the fence than Destiny ever did, because let's be real, Destiny is certainly not an esport. Another job posting may give us some insight into what the next BioShock game might be like. Now, this one is with a new developer since Irrational Games was kind of wound down after BioShock Infinite. Now in development at Cloud Chamber, the job advert says, quote, "We're hoping to find someone who can weave impactful character-driven stories in an open-world setting." Open world would be a big departure for the BioShock series since the previous games were all very linear and people really like those, so this is a risky play. Let's hope it pays off. And finally, Persona stands. You've got some more Persona to look forward to, sort of. Perfect World Games announced Codename X, which is the first mobile entry in a famous Japanese console game series. The music, fonts, colors, and UI used in the reveal weren't exactly subtle, leading the developer to immediately admit that, yeah, this is totally Persona. So, like, why did you say that then? Why? Anyway, it's probably going to be a gacha game because it's on mobile, and Persona mobile gacha just makes too much sense if you're an investor. No date for this one yet. It'll probably just end up on the App Store one day, like, you'll never see it come back. Stop it, don't sing. So, what got announced or delayed this week? Well, Genshin Impact fans, you probably already know this, but for everybody else that's thinking about checking out Genshin Impact, their PS5 update is releasing on April 28th. The update brings 4K resolution and 60 FPS, which is nice, because when I played a few hours of it on the PS4 back at launch, it ran like complete arse. The update also includes some enhanced textures and is arriving at the same time as a major content update. The Genshin community seem to have a bit of a love-hate relationship with their game, but they're still playing it, so it must be doing something right. In Exile Entertainment, makers of Wasteland 3, revealed that there are 2 major DLCs coming. No word on the second one yet, but the first is called The Battle of Steel Town, and it will send you to a weapons factory that arms the Patriarch in the greater Colorado region. What we do there, we don't know yet, but there will surely be some chit-chat and some bang-bang. The DLC drops June 3rd for Xbox, PC, and PS4. I absolutely loved Wasteland 3. It was the best RPG I played last year, hands down, so if you haven't checked it out yet, please do so. I'll leave a link to my review in the description below. One very unexpected reveal that came out of the recent Resident Evil showcase was that, much like Skyrim, Resident Evil 4 will never die and will continue to be ported to new platforms long after humans have perished from the earth. The latest port, Resident Evil 4 VR. Sounds pretty cool, right? Well, how about this? Exclusive to Oculus Quest 2. Not so cool after all. For what it's worth, the Quest 2 is a pretty remarkable piece of hardware that I enjoy, but it requires a Facebook account, and forcing people to have a Facebook account is like forcing them to get a lobotomy, except the lobotomy does less damage to your brain. Anyway, no date on this yet, but expect it sometime this year. And finally, the only delay news we got was from Ubisoft announcing that the upcoming Assassin's Creed Valhalla expansion will be delayed to May 18th. I guess they needed to make it longer or something? I don't fucking know. What came out last week? Well, one game that I missed was the 1.0 release of Quantum League. Now, this is a weird one to explain. It's kind of like if Tenant was a video game and also made sense. Round after round, you and your opponents kill each other, with your actions becoming a layered time loop, allowing you to alter previous events or create new events in the timeline. It released on Steam in 1.0 last week, and it's 76% mostly positive in user reviews at the moment. It's cheap, it's like $15, so if you're in the mood for something different, check it out. Finally, this isn't a release, but it's certainly a thing that happened. Last week, Blizzard held a technical test for Diablo 2 Resurrected. 3 classes were playable over 2 acts. I played all the way through it with the Amazon, and while the Amazon may not have aged very well, the game certainly has. It still feels very playable even today, and the new paint job Vicarious Visions have applied is superb. I'll leave a link to my impressions video in the description below. So what's coming out this week? Well, firstly, we have Orbital Bullet, a 2D side-scrolling shooter with a twist in that it's sort of 3D. If you've played Resogun on the PS4, you'll know how this sort of thing plays, and it's a nice formula. Orbital Bullet had a demo a while back that was very well received. It's coming exclusively to Steam on the 22nd. Immortal Phoenix Rising gets its last DLC drop this week. The Lost Gods DLC is unique in that it's actually a top-down isometric adventure, a departure from the main game's third-person perspective. It's more brawler-focused this time around as well, making it similar to something like the recent Darksiders release. It's out on all platforms on the 22nd. Judgment, the game from the makers of the Yakuza franchise, is making its way to new platforms this week. It's arriving on PS5, Xbox Series X, and Stadia. Remember that? Stadia? That thing that Google did? Anyway, Stadia fans, you should totally buy this, because when Stadia is eventually taken offline, your games library will be like digital memorabilia, like NFTs, only somehow more useless. Oh, by the way, Judgment's really good and you should play it. It's releasing on new platforms on April 23rd. The Big Daddy release for the week comes courtesy of Puppetaro, the long-awaited remake of NieR Replicant, which this time is being called NieR Replicant 1.2244744871139. because Yoko Taro is just a massive troll. If you haven't played NieR Automata, like, what the hell, dude? I don't even know what to say to that. You're missing out on what was undoubtedly one of the greatest games of the last generation, so great in fact, that it created a groundswell of love for the NieR franchise that directly led to the remaking of Automata's prequel, Replicant. The new release is a remake, sticking to the same story beats but adding cut content and substantially revamping combat and visuals. I cannot wait for this. It's out on PC, Xbox, and PS4 on April 23rd. Put this on your radar. They Always Run is a 2D side-scroller beat-em-up from a developer by the name of Aloy. Yes, I know, this is yet another 2D side-scroller beat-em-up with a cool art style, not unlike the recent Narita Boy, but I like those games, and they're typically very cool. This one is sporting a lovely space cowboy aesthetic and some brilliantly framed action. I mean, just look at those silhouettes. The animations really stand out though, far more detailed and fluid than what you typically get in this genre. No release date for this one yet, but if you're interested, be sure to wishlist it on Steam. I'll leave a link to the Steam page below. Sort of free stuff time, and it's a good week. Epic is still offering Deponia, The Pillars of the Earth, and The First Tree, but on the 23rd, you will get 2 excellent titles. The first is Hand of Fate 2, the deck-building third-person action hybrid released back in 2017. It's sitting at 84% very positive for recent reviews on Steam, so even though it was released in 2017, it still holds up. The other free game you'll get is the utterly terrifying and still criminally underappreciated cult classic, Alien Isolation. You think Resident Evil games are scary? Alien Isolation shits on Resident Evil scariness, just like you're gonna shit your pants when you play this game. Seriously, it's very scary, and it's amazing, and it's one of the best horror experiences you can have in video games or movies or wherever. Those lame-ass escape rooms that have popped up everywhere over the last few years. Like, who goes to those? Big week for PlayStation fans. First of all, this is your last week to claim 9 free games, no strings attached. It's part of Sony's play-at-home initiative to give us something to do while we're all stuck on lockdown, and it includes stuff like Subnautica and Abzu and The Witness, and yeah, just great games. Grab them before they disappear on April 23rd. To soften the blow of their absence, Sony is giving away Horizon Zero Dawn on the 25th of April. Again, no PS Plus required, no strings attached. It's just yours to keep forever if you add it to your account. Horizon Zero Dawn has some pacing issues and it's a bit cumbersome in its looting and RPG systems, but it's a spectacular game and we're very lucky to get our hands on it for free. This week, our feel-good story for the week comes courtesy of my homeland, Australia, the only nation to lose a war to birds. You might remember that Disco Elysium was recently refused classification here in Australia for dumbass reasons, which means that it's essentially illegal to sell it here. The good news is that Valve doesn't give a fuck and they're selling it anyway. If you access the Steam page right now in Australia, yeah, you can totally buy it, no problem. Kotaku confirmed that the classification board had been in contact with both the publisher and Valve about this, so everyone knows what's up. The board also confirmed though that they don't have any enforcement powers, so essentially everyone knows that the law is being broken right now, and Valve and the publisher are essentially daring the Australian government to sue them. And they probably won't, because even the government knows that these laws are stupid. I love it. There's hope yet for my country and its stupid censorship laws, so long as publishers just ignore them. That is fantastic. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the show for the week. If you enjoyed yourself, please do me a favor and drop a like on the video, hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell so you'll never miss a hot take. You can also get This Week in Video Games as a podcast, so check that out if that's your thing. Have a fantastic week, and I'll see you next time. Thanks for watching my video. If you liked it, give it a thumbs up. If you didn't, give it a thumbs down so I know to do better for next time. If you enjoyed yourself, consider subscribing, and if you really enjoyed yourself, maybe consider hitting that notification bell so you never miss a video. You can see my patrons here on the left. They're awesome. They're amazing. If you want to join them, check out my Patreon page. Thank you again. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.